Plato is not merely poetic imagination, but the actual condition of human existence. We live suspended between appearances and reality, between what seems and what truly is. The central insight of Plato's philosophy is that most human beings live their lives mistaking shadows for substance, mistaking imitation for truth, and mistaking temporary experience for ultimate reality. His theory of the two realms, the world of becoming and the world of being, is not just metaphysical speculation, but a complete vision of knowledge, ethics, psychology, and the destiny of the soul. It is an attempt to explain why the world appears unstable, why truth feels elusive, and why the human mind seems oriented towards something higher than anything the physical world can offer. Plato's thinking did not arise in a vacuum. He lived during the collapse of Athenian political power, the execution of his teacher Socrates, and a period of profound moral and intellectual uncertainty. Democracy had failed, demagogues had risen, and truth itself seemed vulnerable to persuasion and rhetoric. The sophists, teachers who argued that truth was relative and dependent on opinion, dominated intellectual life. Plato's philosophy emerges as a direct response to this crisis. If justice, goodness, and truth are merely matters of perspective, then no society can be stable and no knowledge secure. Plato sought something unchanging beneath the flux of appearances, something immune to opinion and corruption. What he discovered was a radical distinction between two modes of existence, becoming and being. The world of becoming is the realm of the senses, the world of change, motion, and decay. Everything within it is in a constant state of flux. Objects wear out, bodies age, political systems rise and fall, emotions shift from one moment to the next. Even our perceptions deceive us. A stick looks bent in water, distant objects appear small, and our memories alter over time. For Plato, this instability disqualifies the physical world as a foundation for knowledge. Knowledge requires permanence. Truth cannot depend on what is always changing. Thus, what we gain from sense experience is not knowledge but belief, useful for navigating daily life, but insufficient for understanding reality itself. This is why Plato associates the sensory world with illusion, not because it is non-existent, but because it is incomplete and derivative. Opposed to this realm of flux is the world of being, the domain of the forms. The forms are not physical objects, but eternal realities. Beauty itself, justice itself, equality itself, and even abstract entities like number or circle exist in this higher realm. A physical triangle drawn in sand may be imperfect, but the form of triangle, defined by perfect relations between angles and lines, exists eternally and immutably. According to Plato, we recognize imperfect things as imperfect only because we possess an implicit awareness of perfection. This recognition would be impossible if the forms did not exist independently of the physical world. This leads to one of Plato's most radical claims. The forms are more real than the objects we perceive. Physical things are copies or shadows, participating in the forms without ever fully embodying them. A beautiful object is beautiful because it participates in beauty. A just law is just because it reflects justice. Without the forms, the physical world would be unintelligible chaos. In this sense, reality flows downward from the intelligible to the sensible, from the eternal to the temporal. The visible world depends on the invisible, not the other way around. Plato's allegory of the cave provides a dramatic illustration of this metaphysical structure. In the cave, prisoners are chained so that they can see only shadows cast on a wall by objects behind them. These shadows represent the sensory world, the appearances we take for reality. When one prisoner breaks free and ascends toward the light, he experiences pain, confusion, and resistance. The light initially blinds him, just as truth initially unsettles those accustomed to illusion. But as his eyes adjust, he begins to see real objects and finally the sun itself. The sun symbolizes the form of the good, the highest principle of all reality. It is not merely one form among others, but the source of intelligibility and existence for all forms, just as the sun enables both sight and life in the physical world. The form of the good occupies a unique place in Plato's philosophy. It is not merely ethical goodness, but the ultimate ground of being and knowledge. Without it, nothing could be known or even exist. In later philosophical and religious traditions, this concept would resonate deeply. Neoplatonism would reinterpret it as the One, the absolute source from which all reality emanates. Early Christian thinkers would associate it with God as pure being and ultimate truth. In Eastern philosophies, similar ideas appear in the concept of Brahman or the Tao, an underlying ineffable principle that transcends all distinctions. Plato's good thus becomes one of the most influential ideas in the history of metaphysical thought. Central to Plato's system is the belief that the soul once had direct access to the realm of forms. Before its embodiment, the soul contemplated truth directly, unmediated by sense perception. Birth, however, causes forgetfulness. The body becomes a kind of prison, obscuring the soul's vision. Learning, therefore, is not the acquisition of new information, but the recollection of what the soul already knows. This doctrine of anamnesis appears vividly in the dialogue Meno, where Socrates leads an uneducated slave boy to grasp complex geometrical truths through questioning alone. The implication is profound. Knowledge is innate, and education is the art of awakening memory rather than filling an empty mind. This vision aligns closely with ancient mystical traditions, particularly Orphism and Pythagoreanism, which taught that the soul is divine in origin and trapped within the body as a consequence of cosmic fall or impurity. Plato integrates these mystical ideas with rational philosophy, creating a system where spiritual ascent is achieved through reason rather than ritual alone. Philosophy becomes a way of life, a preparation for death in the sense of freeing the soul from attachment to the body and its illusions. The myth of the charioteer in the Phaedrus further deepens this psychological and ethical dimension. The soul is depicted as a chariot driven by a rational charioteer and pulled by two horses, one noble, representing courage and moral aspiration, and the other unruly, representing appetite and desire. The charioteer's task is to maintain balance and guide the soul upward toward the realm of forms. When reason governs desire, the soul ascends. When desire overwhelms reason, the soul falls back into the material world. This image reveals that the pursuit of truth is not merely intellectual but moral and emotional. One must cultivate self-discipline, virtue, and harmony within the soul to perceive higher reality. Ultimately, Plato's philosophy presents life as a cosmic journey of ascent, from ignorance to knowledge, from illusion to truth, from becoming to being. The physical world is not evil, but it is incomplete. It is a shadow cast by a greater light. To live wisely is to recognize the difference between appearance and reality, and to orient one's life toward what is eternal rather than transient. In an age overwhelmed by images, distractions, and surface-level truths, Plato's vision remains profoundly relevant. It challenges us to ask whether we are merely reacting to shadows projected before us, or whether we are willing to undertake the difficult ascent toward understanding.